All right, let us all line up, everyone at home. Get into position. We're gonna have a great class today. Everyone, bow. Bus. We will now begin. Class is in session. We're going to be going over some over-under passing first. Miha, if you go on your back, please. Now, passing with over-under is one of the most powerful passing positions. However, it can be tricky to pull off if you're unfamiliar with how to use your body correctly to put adequate pressure to keep your opponent's hips flat to the mat. This is the key. You must keep your opponent's hips flat. You can see how Miha's body is parallel to the ground. His shoulder line is parallel to the ground. His hips are parallel to the ground. If he starts turning to one side or the other, now he has a lot more defensive capabilities. So when I enter into the over-under, my goal is to put him back to flat. However, I have to cut the angle a little bit for the entry itself. My favorite entry for this kind of position is just to pin one ankle. If I pin one ankle here like this, it immediately kind of halves the usable limbs for him to actually defend with. So I'm just going to pin this ankle and bring both my knees here to trap it. This is a really simple entry. He's now in like a half guard position of sorts, and I can avoid him actually getting this half guard hook even here. So if he gets a half guard hook, he has a little bit of control over me, but I can actually pin this and just put my shin over the top of it as well. So now even if he tries to squeeze half guard, his leg actually, there's nothing for him to grip onto, which is a nice little trick. So anytime you're trapping one leg, your knee can go to the mat, and this will still effectively trap his leg, but it stops him from having the ability to put you in half guard. Now, this leg is vertical still, but it could be in front of me like this. If this is the case, I just need to underhook it and lift it up so it is above my shoulder line. I'm trying to get his knee above my shoulder line as part of my entry. This is the part where you can start counting on your opponent pushing on you. And this is good. If your opponent is pushing, it means you're winning, because it means he's worried and you've started threatening his guard. If he's pulling on you, that means that he wants you to enter his guard more, and he probably has some tricks and traps lined up for you. So if he starts pulling your head here and trying to bring you in, it's probably not in your best interest to keep driving in. So we want to engage on our terms, right? Does that make sense, everyone? Here in class? Yes? Great. So now I'm lifting the leg, and now I will enter into the actual over-under position. I'm just going to bring my head all the way to this hip. So let's turn this way. So as you can see, I stepped over the leg with my knee down, pinning the shin here. Now I get my shoulder underneath the knee line here. So now the knee is above my shoulder. And I'm just going to pop this off so I can keep talking. I'm bringing my head through to this side here. And I'm going to cup his leg nice and tight and keep my chin looking this way. It's important to keep your chin looking down, because one of the best defenses for Miha is to grab my head and push it back to the other side. If he brings my head back to this side, I kind of lose my ability to go into the over-under position. Now, I can counter this by making sure that I bring his hips flat as soon as I can. And I bring his hips flat not by driving forward with my shoulders, but by driving with my hips and trying to straighten his leg this way. So I keep my knees pinched and I walk my hips to flat. Now from this position, you can see he's pretty compromised. And if he starts pushing on me, it's very easy for me to just lift my legs and go into TP mode to resist his push. I continue to walk until I get his hips facing away from the direction they originally were. And then I bring my shin up and over. Your shin may have already been in this position, but I usually start to be a little more fluid with it here so that I can posture up and squeeze and move my knees. And then I'm looking for this shin to slide over and then pinch. That's how you do it while looking extra cool. You could just hop over like this sloppily, but you're not gonna look as precise. So you wanna walk to this angle here. Foot goes up, turns, extends, and comes back in to secure the over-under pass. Then I can free my arm and pass the guard. Now, that's one way to enter the over-under. There's another way, more of a kamikaze style, where you're actually entering from standing like this. My goal is to still trap a leg here just between my knees. It can be more of a general in between my legs motion, but my goal is to get my armpit over the top of his knee like this as I drop. So I'll block at the other knee like this. It kind of looks like I'm entering into a knee cut, so he's probably just going to be trying to curl in to do some sort of defensive posture. My goal is to drop my weight, turn my knees in to the direction I'm going to be driving, and I'm going to launch my chin right into his hip right here as I hug over the top knee here, like this. You can drop pretty quickly and then get into the over-under position and start walking your hips immediately. And you must remember, it's all about head positioning. If your head is looking the wrong way or it's too low, you're going to get your head pushed out. And then now it's very difficult to fight back to this position. So the entry is key. Once you get stuff from the over-under, it's hard to go back into it without resetting completely, because now you've telegraphed your movement. He's going to be pushing your head and defending. So you want to make sure that you land in the right spot right away when you still have the advantage. Now, one thing that can happen here is you can see you can land an over-under and his knee can still be up and not extended, and that's okay. This is a fine position to be at right here. Staying in the over-under with this leg trapped in sort of a half butterfly is still pretty strong. I just keep this hand through, holding onto the thigh, and I pop up to my toes. As I pop up to my toes, here I walk to the left more so I can get over his knee, and then I can catch that on my hip or my thigh to walk back and extend it straight. I can keep my knee down on the ground and then hit my windshield wipe here to actually pass. Making sure you're using your hands like hooks. I'm not grabbing anything, I'm just holding, trying to get as much surface area on my arms as possible to hold on really tight. If the person at the bottom creates a frame between his elbow and knee, how do you break that? Let's try it. So probably between the top elbow and knee. Here, this frame is probably what he's talking about here. And this is okay. It's all about the entry. If I were to just go directly into the over-under, obviously that frame is going to stop me. This is why you need setups for your passes. Just like you need setups for your takedowns or setups for your submissions, it's much less likely that you'll be able to just throw something on without a setup. I've worked up my body temperature. I can shed this layer. Okay, elbow frame. Here, watch the entry. I'm going to jump to this side at a 45-degree angle. I teach this to the Legion students all the time. For so many guard passes, it's just a really great entry. Most people just kind of like wade into people's guards and then start fighting, but if you just cut the angle and pin a leg here, this is so effective because I can pin here and get to a solid position where I'm not immediately threatened. I'm the one who dictates the pace at this point. He has to try and free his leg from my shin trap, which can be difficult, especially if I have my hands on it and I'm controlling. So this elbow frame that he's worried about, this is specific to him just defending my head going in here. Like, it's a what if, right? So the way we deal with what ifs is we counter with what ifs of our own by making him think about multiple different attacks. If I don't see an opportunity for over-under, I'm not going to force it. That's like trying to go through a wall when you can just walk around the wall to either side. So if he leaves his elbow here, trying to block my head from getting into the over-under and I can't enter, I can still transition into position 1 of the position 1, 2, 3, 4 system. I just reach under the leg and rotate to this side here, immediately threatening almost an over-under pass type scenario like this. As I start to stack, he's going to relieve pressure by changing his frame and defending my stack pass. From this position, I can transition back towards this side, either with knee cut pressure like this, or with just pressure here with the same side leg to control. Now, as I go between these positions, from knee cut to stack, and then eventually back to over-under, I'm just looking for multiple ways to enter into whatever pass I want to use. So even if you're an over-under passer, you definitely need to have the 3 other passes associated with the over-under position, which is knee cut, double under, and the same side knee cut pressure. So the positions look like this. I'll step here. If I see the opportunity for over-under, I can go for it, but if I don't see it, I'm going to re-engage to the other side. Underhooking, and look at my hand, I'm going to turn my thumb so it's the other way. If I don't turn my thumb so it's facing the other way, he could pull my hand off and easily go for triangle. So once I'm here, I turn my hand so my fingers are pointed down. Now if he tries to pull my hand, it hooks on his hamstring. It's much harder for him to pull through for a triangle. From this position, I can threaten the pass to this side, so that if he inverts like this, it's probably not going to end up good for him. I can continue stacking. But if you meet resistance, you can settle back here and potentially pass to the left with a movement like this, or switching your knees, moving through with knee cut pressure. Still, same thing, coming over the head to clear the leg. And as I do these positions, you'll feel your opponent starts to open this leg to defend. When he tries to drive this leg down to off balance me, that's when I can transition right into over-under passing as well, here. So, what if he has a frame? Well, ignore it, because it's a specific defense to a certain move that you don't have to go for. You need to do your movements in sequences and set up positions that have different branching pathways that lead to the same goal, which is the guard pass. It's very unlikely to have the first guard pass you throw at someone be effective. You need to beat them cumulatively by establishing better position, threatening multiple attacks, all while they are just focused on pushing on you still. That's called tempo. So from the over-under, so we talked about position 1, 2, 3, and 4 a little bit now. I didn't go into detail on that, but there's a whole drill you can do there. Albert and Mike want to know how to transition once you have the hips, how to go up to the chest. Well, one good option is not to go to chest side control, but just circle to north-south, because if you have hip control, that doesn't stop you from circling to north-south, and then it'll be a much easier transition from hip control to a different method of control. If you run into an issue where you're here and you pass and he's stiff arming at my hips here and I can't get up, all I would do here is bring my right hand in to block the hip. So I'll have to show that from this angle. Because the reason I can't transition up to his chest is because my right hand is still around his leg like this. And if I step over, that's fine. But for me to actually move up, I have to like come up and then try and come here, and that's why you're having difficulty. You don't want to disconnect to make that motion. So you have to readjust where your right arm is, and it should go to this hip. Nothing's stopping me from doing this, no matter how hard he's stiff arming my hips. Here, I could be completely supported by his weight. I can still bring my leg and hook. Once I'm hooked here, now I can block this knee from entering in to recover guard, and I can bring my bottom arm out and over. And the pressure is not as consistent because I don't have to keep laying on him, because once I block this hip, I can even have my weight off of him, and he can't recover his guard as long as I keep my head down. There's just no way for him to go here. So you'll be able to free that arm pretty easily if you just go and control the near side hip. Does that answer your question? Just don't stay there and then just try and go immediately to chest control. Clear, block, and then either circle up to north-south from that position, or just bring the other arm over, and then you can really pressure to move wherever you want.